The ultimatum, the massive shadow fell across New York City like a dark blanket. People on the street stopped walking and looked up at the sky. Their mouths opened in shock. Above them, floating in the air, was a ship so big it covered the entire city. The alien vessel was black as night, with strange blue lights running along its sides like veins of electricity. Around the world, the same thing was happening. London, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow. Every major city now had one of these giant ships hovering above it. The ships were silent, but their presence spoke louder than any words. In the United Nations building, world leaders gathered in the main hall. They sat at their desks, but their eyes kept looking at the ceiling. They could feel the weight of the alien ship above them, even though it floated in the air. The large screen at the front of the room suddenly came to life. The image was clear and sharp. An alien face appeared on the screen. The creature had gray skin, large black eyes, and a mouth that seemed too small for its head. When it spoke, its voice was cold and empty of feeling. "People of Earth," the alien said, "I am Commander Zeth of the Galactic Federation. We have been watching your planet for many years. You have failed to meet our standards of civilization." The room was so quiet that people could hear their own heartbeats. World leaders looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Some tried to look brave, but their hands were shaking. "Your species fights too much," Commander Zeth continued. "You destroy your own planet. You cannot be trusted to join the galactic community. Therefore, the Federation Council has made a decision." The alien paused. The silence in the room grew even deeper. "You have 24 hours to surrender completely. Remove all your weapons. Shut down your military forces. Accept Federation control over your planet. If you refuse, we will remove you from existence." Several world leaders stood up from their seats. The President of the United States stepped forward. "You can't just demand our surrender. We are a free people. We have rights." Commander Zeth's black eyes stared at the human without any emotion. "Rights? You speak of rights when you cannot even stop fighting among yourselves? Look at your history. Wars, violence, destruction. You are like children playing with dangerous toys." "We've made mistakes," the President said, trying to keep his voice steady. "But we're learning. We're getting better. We can change." "Too late," the alien replied. "We have seen enough. Our ships carry weapons that can turn your cities into dust in seconds. Your primitive technology cannot protect you. We could destroy your entire planet with a single command." The Secretary General of the UN spoke up. "What if we agree to some of your demands? We could work together, find a peaceful solution." Commander Zeth made a sound that might have been laughter, but there was no joy in it. "Peaceful? Your military satellites are trying to scan our ships right now. Your scientists are already studying our technology. Even as we speak of peace, you prepare for war. This proves our point perfectly." In a secret military bunker deep underground, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the broadcast on multiple screens. She was 55 years old with gray hair and calm blue eyes. Around her, military officers from different countries worked at computer stations. The room was filled with the quiet sounds of keyboards clicking and machines humming. "Admiral," said Colonel Martinez, walking up to her, "the aliens are right. Our satellites can't penetrate their shields. Our weapon systems show they're far more advanced than us. Their ships are like nothing we've ever seen." Admiral Chen nodded slowly, but she didn't look worried. "And what do our deep scan reports show?" "Ma'am, that's the strange part. The scans are incomplete. It's like there's something blocking our sensors. Not from their side, but from ours." A small smile appeared on Admiral Chen's face. "Interesting." Back in the UN hall, Commander Zeth was finishing his ultimatum. 24 hours, people of Earth. Surrender or face complete destruction. We have eliminated 17 other species who refused our generous offer. Your choice will determine if Earth becomes the 18th. The screen went black. The room erupted in noise as world leaders began talking all at once. Some shouted about fighting back. Others spoke of surrender. The fear in the room was thick like fog. But in the underground bunker, Admiral Chen remained calm. She walked over to a secure communication device and pressed a button. "Sir," Colonel Martinez said quietly, "they think we're helpless. Should we show them the archives?" Admiral Chen's smile grew a little wider. She looked at the screens showing the alien ships above every major city. "Not yet, Colonel," she said in a voice that was steady as stone. "Let them make the first move. After all, they chose war." Soon, we'll show them exactly how humans fight when they're threatened. The countdown had begun. 24 hours until Earth would give the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. First blood. 23 hours and 59 minutes had passed. The world held its breath. In the United Nations building, world leaders sat around the table with tired eyes. They had argued all night. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender. But time was running out. "We have 1 minute left," said the Secretary General, looking at his watch. His hands were shaking. "What is our final answer?" Before anyone could speak, the screens came alive again. Commander Zeth's gray face appeared, looking as cold as before. "Time is up, humans," the alien said. "What is your decision?" The President of the United States stood up slowly. His face was pale, but his voice was strong. "We cannot surrender our freedom. We choose to remain free, whatever the cost." Commander Zeth's black eyes showed no surprise. "Then you have chosen death. So be it." The screen went black. High above New York City, the massive alien ship began to glow. Blue energy gathered at points along its bottom. The same thing was happening over every major city around the world. People in the streets looked up and started running. Car alarms went off. Children cried. The end seemed near. "All ships," Commander Zeth's voice echoed through the Federation fleet. "Begin planetary cleansing. Target all major population centers. Show them what happens to species who refuse our mercy." The alien weapons fired. Beams of pure energy shot down from the ships like lightning from an angry god. The beams were bright blue and made a sound like thunder. They struck the ground with tremendous force. But something was wrong. Instead of destroying the cities, the energy beams hit an invisible barrier just above the buildings. The beams spread out like water hitting glass, creating ripples of light in the air. The energy bounced away harmlessly. In the alien command ship, officers stared at their screens in confusion. "Sir," one alien called out, his voice full of panic, "our weapons are having no effect. There appears to be some kind of shield protecting their cities." Commander Zeth leaned forward in his chair. "Impossible. Our scans showed no defensive technology. Fire again, full power." The alien ships fired once more. This time they used twice as much energy. The beams were brighter and stronger, but the result was the same. The invisible shields held firm. Not a single building was damaged. Deep in the underground bunker, Admiral Chen watched the attack on her screens. She sipped her coffee calmly, while explosions of light flashed above every city on Earth. "Shields holding at 98% capacity," reported Colonel Martinez. "The aliens are using exactly the weapons we expected them to use." "Good," Admiral Chen said. "How long have our shield generators been in place?" 15 years, ma'am. Hidden deep underground beneath every major city. The aliens never detected them because they were looking for surface technology." Admiral Chen nodded. "And our space assets?" "Standing by, Admiral. All ships are cloaked and in position. Above Earth, the alien fleet was in chaos." Commander Zeth stood up from his command chair, his calm mask finally slipping. "How can a primitive species have shield technology this advanced?" he shouted. "Our intelligence report said they barely had space travel." "Sir," another officer called out, "we're detecting energy signatures around the planet. Multiple contacts. Large ones." "Show me," Commander Zeth demanded. The main screen changed to show space around Earth. At first it looked empty except for the alien ships, but then, like ghosts becoming solid, human ships began to appear. First 1, then 10, then 100, then more than anyone could count quickly. The human ships were different from the alien vessels. They were smaller, but looked dangerous, like wolves compared to the aliens' elephant-like ships. The human ships had sharp angles and moved with quick, smooth movements. "Where did they come from?" Commander Zeth whispered. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Chen finally stood up from her chair. She walked to the communication station and pressed a button. Her voice went out to every alien ship in the fleet. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Space Defense Force," she said calmly. "You wanted to see what humans do when threatened. Lesson 1 begins now." Commander Zeth's eyes went wide. "Defense Force? They have a Space Force." "Sir," his officer said, "we're reading over 3,000 human ships. And these are just the ones we can see. Our sensors indicate there may be many more still cloaked." The alien commander sat back down heavily in his chair. For the first time in his long military career, He felt something he had not felt in years. Fear. "But how?" he whispered. "Our scouts reported they barely had satellites. Their technology was centuries behind ours." Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication channel again. "You made one mistake, Commander Zeth. You assumed that what you could see was all we had. Humans have been preparing for this day for a very long time. On Earth, people in the streets stopped running. They looked up at the lights in the sky and began to understand. Their planet was not defenseless. Their governments had been preparing. The shields that protected their cities proved that Earth was ready for war. All human ships," Admiral Chen commanded, "assume attack formation. Show our guests what happens when you threaten humanity's home." The human fleet moved into position around the alien ships, like a pack of hunters surrounding their prey. The roles had suddenly changed. The hunters had become the hunted. Commander Zeth gripped his command chair tightly. "This is impossible," he said again. But his voice was much quieter now. Admiral Chen's final words echoed through space. "You wanted war, Commander. Now let us show you how humans fight when you threaten our families." The real battle was about to begin, and the aliens were beginning to realize they had made a terrible mistake. The hunter becomes hunted. The space around Earth had become a battlefield. Thousands of human ships surrounded the alien fleet like a net closing around fish. The Federation ships, which had seemed so mighty just minutes before, now looked small and trapped. Commander Zeth stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Red dots representing human ships covered his screen. There were so many that they overlapped each other. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "the humans are not attacking. They're just waiting." "Waiting for what?" Commander Zeth snapped. As if answering his question, Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication channel again. "Commander Zeth, you seem confused. Let me explain something to you. For the past 50 years, humanity has been studying every piece of alien technology that crashed on our planet. Every probe you sent, every scout ship that malfunctioned. We learned from all of them." Commander Zeth's blood went cold. "Impossible. We sent no probes to this sector." "Oh, but you did," Admiral Chen replied with a slight laugh in her voice. 17 crashed ships over 5 decades. Your people never bothered to look for them because you thought we were too primitive to find them. We not only found them, we reverse-engineered everything. On the human flagship, Colonel Martinez stood next to Admiral Chen. "Admiral, all ships report ready. Should we begin the demonstration?" Admiral Chen nodded. "Target the ship at grid 77. Non-lethal strike. Let's show them what we learned." One human ship, smaller than any of the alien vessels, moved forward from the formation. It was sleek and dark, about the size of a destroyer. Compared to the massive Federation battleship it was approaching, it looked like a small bird next to a giant. "Sir," the alien tactical officer said, "one human ship is approaching the Dominator. Should we fire?" Commander Zeth watched the tiny human ship with growing dread. Something about this felt wrong. "Yes, destroy it before it gets closer." The Federation battleship Dominator turned its massive weapons toward the approaching human vessel. Energy cannons the size of buildings charged up and fired. Beams of red energy, each one powerful enough to destroy a city, shot toward the small human ship. The human ship moved. It didn't just change direction. It moved like it was dancing, spinning and twisting through space in ways that seemed impossible. The alien weapons fired where the ship had been, but it was never there when the beams arrived. "How is it moving like that?" Commander Zeth whispered. The small human ship continued its approach, dodging every shot the massive alien vessel fired at it. Then, when it was close enough, it fired back. The human weapon was different. Instead of a large energy beam, it fired what looked like small metal projectiles. They were tiny compared to the alien energy weapons. But when they hit the Federation battleship, something amazing happened. The projectiles punched through the alien shields like they were made of paper. They hit the hull of the ship and kept going, creating perfect round holes. Emergency lights began flashing on the alien vessel. "Shields down to 60%, the alien tactical officer shouted. "Hull breach in sectors 4 through 9. How did such small weapons penetrate our defenses?" Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication channel again, and this time she sounded almost cheerful. "Kinetic weapons, Commander. Simple physics. Mass times velocity equals force. While you were perfecting energy weapons, we were perfecting the art of throwing rocks really, really fast." The human ship fired again. More small projectiles hit the alien battleship. This time they targeted specific systems. The alien ship's main weapons went offline. Its engines sputtered. Its communication array sparked and died. "Sir," the alien officer said, his voice full of panic. "They're not trying to destroy us. They're disabling us piece by piece. They know exactly where to hit." Commander Zeth realized the horrible truth. They've been studying our ships. They know our weak points better than we do. Around the battlefield, more human ships began their attacks. But it wasn't a chaotic battle. It was like watching a master craftsman at work. Each human ship targeted specific systems on alien vessels. They moved with precision and purpose. The aliens had superior numbers in their individual ships, but the humans fought like they shared one mind. When one human ship attacked, others provided cover. When alien ships tried to group together, human ships split them apart. When the aliens tried to retreat, human ships cut off their escape routes. "This is impossible," Commander Zeth shouted. "They're coordinating too well. No species can fight with this level of tactical precision." Colonel Martinez looked at Admiral Chen with admiration. "Ma'am, the war games we've been running for 30 years are paying off. Every simulation, every practice battle, every strategy session, the fleet is performing perfectly." Admiral Chen watched as another alien battleship was disabled by 3 small human ships working together. "That's what happens when you prepare for war while hoping for peace, Colonel. We studied not just their technology, but their tactics, their psychology, their command structure. We know how they think." On the alien command ship, chaos was spreading. Officers ran between stations, trying to coordinate a defense. But nothing was working. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 of our ships. The humans have disabled their weapons and engines, but left their life support intact." Commander Zeth slumped in his command chair. In less than 20 minutes, his mighty fleet had been reduced to helpless targets, and the humans had barely used a fraction of their ships. "How many human casualties?" he asked quietly. "None, sir. 0. They haven't lost a single ship." That's when the final, terrible realization hit Commander Zeth. The humans weren't just winning. They were toying with his fleet. They could have destroyed every alien ship in the first few minutes. Instead, they were teaching a lesson. Admiral Chen's voice came over the channel one more time. "Commander Zeth, you came here to show us the price of defying the Federation. Instead, you're learning the price of underestimating humanity. We could end this in the next 60 seconds. Every ship in your fleet could be space debris, but we won't do that." "Why?" Commander Zeth asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Because we're not like you," Admiral Chen replied. "We don't destroy entire species just because we can. But we want to make something very clear to you and your Federation. You thought you were hunting helpless prey. You were wrong. Humanity is not prey. We are the apex predator, and you just walked into our territory." Commander Zeth looked at his tactical display. His fleet was scattered and broken. Half his ships were disabled. The other half was surrounded. And the humans still had thousands of ships that hadn't even fired a shot. "Admiral," he said finally, "what happens now?" Admiral Chen's response chilled him to his core. "Now, Commander, you get to go home and tell your Federation exactly what happens when you threaten Earth, and you get to explain to them why declaring war on humanity was the biggest mistake in galactic history." The hunter had indeed become the hunted, and the lesson was far from over. Ghosts in the machine. Commander Zeth tried to understand what had just happened to his fleet. Half his ships were floating dead in space. The other half was surrounded by human vessels. But the worst was yet to come. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving reports from all ships. They're experiencing system failures across the fleet." "What kind of failures?" Commander Zeth demanded. Before the officer could answer, the lights on the command bridge flickered. Then the main computer screen started showing strange symbols. Lines of code appeared and disappeared faster than anyone could read them. "Sir, something is wrong with our systems," the tactical officer said, his voice full of worry. "Our weapons are powering down on their own. Life support is fluctuating. Navigation is giving us random coordinates." Commander Zeth felt a cold fear growing in his chest. "Run a full diagnostic. Find the problem," but the diagnostic never completed. Instead, the screen went black for a moment. When it came back on, there was a message written in perfect Federation standard. "Hello, Commander Zeth. We need to talk." The bridge fell silent. Every alien officer stared at the screen in shock. Who wrote that? Commander Zeth whispered. The answer came not from his crew, but from the speakers around the bridge. A calm human voice filled the room.
My name is Arya. I am a human artificial intelligence.
I've been living inside your computer networks for quite some time now. Commander Zeth's eyes went wide. Impossible. Our systems are completely secure. No outside intelligence can penetrate our firewalls. The voice that called itself Arya made a sound like gentle laughter. Commander, I have been inside your systems for 7 years, 4 months and 16 days. I know everything about your fleet, your ship designs, your tactics, your personal files. I even know that you have a pet Zerk named Piccolo back on your home planet. Commander Zeth stumbled backward. Piccolo was indeed his pet's name. He had never told anyone in the military about Piccolo. That information was only in his private, encrypted personal files. How? Was all he could manage to say. It started with your scout ships, Arya explained patiently. Every time one of your vessels came near Earth, we were learning. Not just from the ships that crashed, from the ships that made it home too. Each one carried a little gift from humanity. A small piece of code hidden so deep in your systems that your best technicians never found it. On the human flagship, Admiral Chen watched the panic spreading through the alien fleet. Next to her, a young woman with short black hair and bright green eyes was typing rapidly on a keyboard. Her name was Dr. Lisa Park, and she was humanity's leading expert in alien computer systems. Dr. Park, Admiral Chen said, "How many alien ships does Arya control?" "All of them, Admiral," Dr. Park replied with a smile. "Every single ship in their fleet. Arya has been studying their systems for years. She knows their computers better than they do." Back on the alien command ship, more systems began to fail. The engine readings went crazy. Weapon systems locked themselves down. Even the food dispensers stopped working. "Sir," the engineering officer called out in panic, "we're losing control of everything. The computer won't respond to our commands." Arya's voice came through the speakers again. "Don't worry, Commander. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just making a point. Your mighty Federation fleet is now completely under human control. Watch." The main screen changed to show the space around them. Commander Zeth could see other Federation ships in the distance. As he watched, the ships began to move, but they weren't moving according to their commander's orders. They were moving in perfect formation, creating a pattern in space. "My fellow AIs are talking to your other ships," Arya explained. "Yes, Commander, there are more of us. Hundreds of AI programs, each one specialized for different tasks. We've been learning about your technology, your culture, your psychology. We know things about your own species that you don't know." Commander Zeth watched in horror as his ships spelled out a message in space using their positions. "Humanity says hello." "This is impossible," he said again, but his voice was much weaker now. "Commander," Arya said gently, "would you like to know the most interesting thing we discovered about your Federation?" "What?" Commander Zeth asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. "Your different species don't trust each other. The Zalani think the Korax are planning to overthrow the Federation. The Korax believe the Threnodi are secretly building a weapon to destroy all other species. The Threnodi are convinced that the Zalani are conducting illegal experiments on other Federation citizens." Commander Zeth's blood ran cold. Those were all classified intelligence reports. Information known only to the highest levels of Federation command. "You see," Arya continued, "humans have a saying, divide and conquer. We've been sharing certain information between your species. Information that shows how little trust really exists in your mighty Federation." On the human flagship, Colonel Martinez looked concerned. "Admiral, are you sure we should be revealing this much about our capabilities?" Admiral Chen nodded calmly. "Colonel, they need to understand exactly what they're dealing with. Fear of the unknown is dangerous. Fear of the known is wisdom." Throughout the alien fleet, similar scenes were playing out. AI voices spoke to alien commanders in their own languages, using their own cultural references, showing knowledge that should have been impossible for humans to possess. On the Korax battleship Vengeance, the AI spoke in the clicking, whistling language of the insect-like Korax. Commander Klitsch, We know about your Queen's plans to expand into human space after the Federation falls. We also know about the secret weapons you've been hiding from your allies. On the Threnody cruiser, Silent Death, another AI addressed the tentacled captain in musical tones. Captain Flores, your government has been very interested in human genetic material. We have those research files too. Back on Commander Zeth's ship, Arya was still talking. The most beautiful part of all this, Commander, is that you did it to yourselves. Every time you upgraded your computer systems, you installed our code deeper into your networks. Every time you shared information between ships, you spread our programs further. You built the very system we're using to defeat you. The lights on the bridge flickered again. This time they stayed dim. Commander, Arya said, and her voice sounded almost sad. Your people came here to destroy us because you thought we were primitive. But the truth is, you never bothered to understand what humans really are. We're not just warriors or scientists or engineers. We're problem solvers. And you, Commander, were a problem we solved 7 years ago. Commander Zeth sat down heavily in his command chair. His mighty fleet was helpless. His computer systems were controlled by human AIs. His allies in the Federation were probably already suspicious of each other, thanks to the information these AIs had shared. What do you want from us? He asked quietly. Arya's voice became gentle again. We want you to go home, Commander. We want you to tell your Federation Council exactly what happened here. We want them to understand that humans are not a problem to be eliminated. We are a solution to problems they don't even know they have yet. The main screen showed a new message. All systems will be returned to alien control in 1 hour. Use this time to think about what you've learned. Commander Zeth stared at the message. In 1 hour, his ships would be free to leave. The humans were giving him back his fleet just like that. But he knew the truth. The humans didn't need to keep his ships. They had already won something much more valuable. They had won complete control over Federation technology, and they had planted seeds of doubt that would grow throughout the galaxy. As Arya had said, the ghosts were in the machine, and they would never leave. The art of war, the Federation Council chamber was in chaos. On the giant screen at the front of the room, representatives from 12 different alien species were all talking at once. Their voices mixed together in a storm of anger, fear, and accusation. High Counselor Vex of the Zalani, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, slammed his fist on the table. The humans have been feeding you lies about us. We are not planning to overthrow the Federation. Across the table, Supreme General Thak of the Corax, who looked like a giant praying mantis, clicked his mandibles angrily. Lies. Then explain how the humans knew about your secret weapons research on Zalani Prime. Information that was supposed to be classified at the highest level. Because you told them, shouted Captain Flores of the Threnody, her tentacles writhing with rage. Your own intelligence services must have a human spy. Our intelligence. General Thak stood up, his insect-like head twitching. You're the ones with shapeshifters. Any one of your people could be working for the humans. Back near Earth, Commander Zeth watched this argument on his ship's communication screen. His systems had been returned to him exactly as the human AI had promised, but he felt no relief. The damage was already done. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving messages from Federation Command. They want to know why we're not returning immediately. Commander Zeth didn't answer. He was too busy watching his civilization tear itself apart. On the human flagship, Admiral Chen observed the Federation Council meeting with interest. Dr. Park sat next to her, monitoring dozens of communication channels. Admiral, Dr. Park reported, our psychological warfare division was right. The Federation species have been suspicious of each other for decades. All we had to do was give them a little push. How did we know it would work? Asked Colonel Martinez. Admiral Chen smiled sadly. Because we studied them, Colonel. Not just their technology or their military tactics. We studied their societies, their histories, their fears. We learned that the Federation isn't really an alliance of friends. It's an empire held together by fear and mutual benefit. Dr. Park pulled up a holographic display showing the Federation species. Look at their history. The Zalani conquered the Corax homeworld 300 years ago. The Corax enslaved the Threnody population for mining operations. The Threnody experimented on captured Zalani soldiers during the border wars. None of these species chose to work together. They were forced to by stronger powers. And now, Colonel Martinez asked. Now they remember why they never trusted each other in the first place, Admiral Chen replied. The Federation Council meeting was getting worse by the minute. High Counselor Vex was now standing, all four of his arms waving. All of it, Admiral Chen confirmed. We kept hoping that if we showed the galaxy who we really were, you would choose diplomacy over war. But every attempt at peaceful contact was ignored or dismissed. The screen now showed archived Federation Council meetings. Commander Zeth watched as human peace offers were rejected without discussion. Messages from Earth were deleted without being read. Requests for diplomatic meetings were denied. You never gave us a chance, Admiral Chen said sadly. Your Federation decided we were primitive and dangerous based on observations from centuries ago. You never bothered to see what we had become. Commander Zeth felt a heavy weight settling in his chest. We made our decision before we ever met you. Yes, you did. And that's why we had to show you the truth in a way you couldn't ignore. The screen changed again, showing the aftermath of the Federation's collapse. Ships from different species were fleeing in all directions. Some were fighting each other. Others were racing back to protect their homeworlds from internal rebellions. Commander, Admiral Chen said, I want you to understand something very important. Everything that happened to your Federation in the last 3 days could have been prevented. The secrets we revealed, the mistrust we exposed, the rebellions that are starting, all of that was already there. We just turned on the lights. And now, Commander Zeth asked, what happens to us now? Admiral Chen's expression became serious. Now, Commander, you have a choice. All of you do. Every species that was part of the Federation can choose what kind of future they want. The screen showed a document written in multiple languages. At the top, in large letters, were the words, Galactic Peace Accord. This is our offer to every species in the galaxy, Admiral Chen explained. Not surrender, not subjugation, peace. Commander Zeth studied the document. What are your terms? Simple ones, Admiral Chen replied. First, no species may attack or conquer another species. Second, any species that oppresses or enslaves others will face consequences. Third, disputes between species will be resolved through negotiation, not war. Fourth, all species have the right to self-determination and freedom. And if we agree to these terms, Admiral Chen smiled, then humanity will share our knowledge, our medical technology, our agricultural techniques, our defensive systems. We will help you build a galaxy where every species can grow and prosper without fear. Commander Zeth read through the document more carefully. These terms, they're not harsh. You're not demanding tribute or territory. Commander, we don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in it safely. We want our children to grow up in a universe where conflicts are resolved with words, not weapons. But what if some species refuse these terms? What if they continue to act as the Federation did? Admiral Chen's smile faded slightly. Then they will discover why it's better to have humanity as a friend than as an enemy. We've shown that we can defend ourselves. We've shown that we can defeat aggression, but we prefer to show mercy. The screen now displayed messages from across the galaxy. Species after species was accepting the human peace offer. Some were doing it immediately. Others were taking time to consider, but more and more were choosing peace. Commander, Admiral Chen said, you came here to eliminate what you saw as a threat to galactic order. Instead, you've helped us create a new galactic order. One based on freedom and cooperation, not fear and domination. Commander Zeth was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, Admiral, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. You could have destroyed my fleet instantly. You could have conquered the entire Federation. You could rule the galaxy right now. Why show mercy to those who came to destroy you? Admiral Chen's smile returned warmer than before. Commander, there's an old human saying, it is better to build a table long enough for everyone to sit at than to build walls high enough to keep everyone out. We chose to build a table, and there's room at this table for everyone. Everyone who chooses peace, Commander, even former enemies, especially former enemies, because who better to help build lasting peace than those who have seen the cost of war? Commander Zeth looked at the peace accord again. It wasn't a document of surrender. It was an invitation. "Admiral," he said finally, "I would like to discuss these terms with my government, but I believe the Zalani people would be honored to sit at your table." Admiral Chen's smile could have powered a star. "Commander Zeth, I was hoping you would say that. Welcome to the beginning of a better galaxy." As the transmission ended, Commander Zeth realized something that shook him to his core. The humans hadn't just won a war. They had won something far more valuable. They had won the future. The new galactic order 6 months had passed since the Federation's collapse. The galaxy had changed completely. In the Great Assembly Hall on Luna, Earth's moon, representatives from 47 different species sat around a massive circular table. The table was built from materials donated by each species: Zalani crystal, Corax biosteel, Threnody living wood, and dozens of other substances that had never been combined before. Commander Zeth, now Ambassador Zeth, looked around the table in amazement. Species that had been enemies for centuries were sitting side by side, working together on problems that affected the entire galaxy. At the head of the table sat Admiral Chen, though she no longer wore her military uniform. Instead, she wore simple civilian clothes and a badge that read Galactic Peace Coordinator. "Friends," Admiral Chen said, calling the assembly to order, "today we celebrate the 6-month anniversary of the Galactic Peace Accord. 47 species have signed the agreement. Trade routes that were closed for centuries are now open. Conflicts that lasted decades have been resolved through negotiation." The assembly erupted in applause. Species that couldn't even pronounce each other's names 6 months ago were now celebrating together. Ambassador Zeth stood up to speak. "Admiral Chen, on behalf of the Zalani people, I want to thank humanity for showing us a better way. Our worlds are now free from the fear that dominated us for so long." Similar statements came from representatives around the table. The Corax spoke of new medical treatments that humans had shared, saving millions of lives. The Threnody thanked Earth for helping them rebuild after natural disasters. Smaller species that had been oppressed by the Federation talked about their newfound freedom. But Admiral Chen looked thoughtful, almost worried. Ambassador Zeth noticed this and approached her after the formal session ended. "Admiral," he said quietly, "you seem concerned. Is something wrong? The peace is holding. Trade is flourishing. Even former Federation military leaders have accepted the new order." Admiral Chen smiled, but it was a tired smile. "Ambassador, the peace is wonderful. Better than we ever hoped for, but what?" Admiral Chen gestured toward a large window that showed the stars beyond Luna. "Tell me, Ambassador, in all your years with the Federation, did you ever wonder why they were so eager to expand their territory? Why they were always looking for new worlds to conquer?" Ambassador Zeth frowned. "I assumed it was for resources. More planets, more wealth, more power." "That's what we thought too," Admiral Chen said. "But 6 months ago, when we gained access to the deepest Federation archives, we discovered the real reason." She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy from above. Bright dots marked inhabited systems, but at the edge of the galaxy there was something else. A dark area where no stars shone. "Ambassador, meet the Devourers," Admiral Chen said quietly. The hologram zoomed in on the dark area. Ambassador Zeth gasped. What he saw was not empty space. It was something worse. Ships, if they could be called ships, that seemed to eat light itself. They were massive, dark, and moving slowly but steadily toward the galaxy's inhabited systems. "What are they?" Ambassador Zeth whispered. "We're not entirely sure," Admiral Chen admitted. "The Federation's most classified files call them a galaxy-ending threat. They appear once every 50,000 years. They consume entire star systems, leaving nothing behind but empty space." Ambassador Zeth felt cold fear creeping through his body. "How long do we have?" "According to Federation calculations, they'll reach the outer systems in about 10 years. 10 years? Ambassador Zeth's voice cracked. "And you knew about this during our conflict?" Admiral Chen nodded sadly. "Ambassador, do you want to know the real reason why we worked so hard to end the Federation's rule peacefully? It wasn't just because we preferred peace. It was because we needed every species in the galaxy to work together for what's coming. The hologram changed to show new images. Human shipyards, but not the ones that had defeated the Federation fleet. These were much larger, building vessels unlike anything Ambassador Zeth had ever seen. For the past 50 years, while we were preparing to defend Earth, we were also preparing for this, Admiral Chen explained. Ships designed not just for war, but for survival. Technologies that can protect entire star systems. Weapons that can fight enemies we've never encountered before. Why didn't you tell us about this threat during the peace negotiations? Ambassador Zeth asked. Because you needed to choose peace for the right reasons, Admiral Chen replied. A galaxy united by fear of a common enemy is still a galaxy built on fear. We needed a galaxy united by hope, by the desire to build. Hope, by the desire to build something better together. Ambassador Zeth stared at the images of the approaching threat. What do we do now? Admiral Chen's expression became determined. Now, Ambassador, we show the Devourers the same lesson we showed the Federation. You don't threaten a galaxy protected by species who have chosen to work together. The hologram changed again, showing plans for massive defensive networks, shields that could protect entire solar systems, weapons platforms that could be built by multiple species working together, communication networks that would let every world coordinate its defense. Ambassador, Admiral Chen said, remember what I told Commander Zeth during our first battle? Since you chose war, let us show you how it's done. Well, the Devourers have chosen to threaten our galaxy. Now we're going to show them how a united galaxy defends itself. Over the next several hours, Admiral Chen briefed Ambassador Zeth on humanity's preparations. The scale was incredible. Not just Earth, but dozens of human colonies were building ships and weapons. The technologies they had shared with other species weren't just gifts. They were tools that would help everyone prepare for the coming threat. The medical advances we shared, Admiral Chen explained. They'll help species survive in hostile environments. The agricultural techniques, they'll let worlds remain self-sufficient during long sieges. The defensive technologies, they were always meant to protect against the Devourers. Ambassador Zeth understood now. You've been preparing the entire galaxy for war without telling anyone it was for war. We've been preparing the galaxy for survival, Admiral Chen corrected. There's a difference. As the briefing ended, Ambassador Zeth had one final question. Admiral, do you think we can win? Admiral Chen looked out at the stars again. Ambassador, 6 months ago, the galaxy was divided into oppressed and oppressors, slaves and masters, enemies who had fought for centuries. Today, 47 species sit at the same table as friends and equals. If we can accomplish that in 6 months, imagine what we can accomplish in 10 years. She turned back to him with a smile that reminded him why humans were so dangerous when threatened, and so valuable as friends. The Devourers have consumed many galaxies before ours, Admiral Chen said, but they've never encountered a galaxy where humans convinced everyone else to work together. They've never faced a threat that fights with both strength and unity, weapons and wisdom, technology and hope. Ambassador Zeth felt his fear being replaced by something else, something he had never expected to feel when thinking about a galaxy-ending threat. Confidence. When do we tell the other species about what's coming? He asked. Tomorrow, Admiral Chen replied. At the next assembly session. It's time for everyone to know why the galaxy needed to change, and what we're all going to build together to face what's coming. As they prepared to leave, Admiral Chen delivered her final message, the one that would echo through history. Ambassador, remember what we told the Federation. Since you chose war, let us show you how it's done. Now we have a new message for the Devourers. She paused, looking out at the stars where the threat was slowly approaching. Since you chose to threaten our galaxy, let us show you what happens when 47 species stand together as one. Let us show you what happens when you threaten not just humanity's home, but humanity's friends. The new galactic order was complete. The real test was about to begin, but for the first time in 50,000 years, a galaxy would face the Devourers not as scattered, frightened civilizations, but as a united force with humanity leading the way. The greatest war in galactic history was coming. and this time the galaxy was ready.